Hey everyone, how's it going? As requested, today I'm going to do a video on some kayak modifications, some lure tests, a sonar test on the new sonar that I got. I'm going to show off my new nets that I rigged up and a couple of other little surprises, so thanks for tuning in. So here are the crab nets that I got. I might not be catching any crabs with them, but I'm hoping to get some minnows, maybe some crawfish. Now, they're really inexpensive. You get them as a pair. I got them on Amazon. This one here I've rigged a certain way so that I could drop it from the shore. I replaced the line that was in it with some heavier paracord. I think it's 550, and made a little rig on the end so that I could either tie it to my kayak if I wanted to, or anchor it to the shore somehow. These nets are pretty cool because it's a neat system for them to go into and hopefully not come back out of. There's a little bait net in the middle that I can load up with some treats for all the fish, and it has 6 ports of entry and should work pretty well. Now the one over here I've rigged up with a big buoy and about 30 foot of line on it so that I can hopefully drop it in the middle of the lake that I'm going to go to. This one has a little bit of a weight system so it can get down deeper. It's a 6-ounce weight. I couldn't put it onto the bottom of the net, obviously, because it'd start ripping the net up, but I found a way to just rig it in here. So hopefully that works pretty good. Try those out this Saturday and see how they do. So this is a pretty neat robo lure. You might have seen it on Facebook ads. I got it on Amazon as well. Pretty pricey, but for what it is, I think it might be worth it. It's odd, the way that it charges, it just has a basic USB, and then it has these 2 alligator clips that hook to both points and charges that way. This lure also features a little propeller on the front that'll make it take off. Really good action, really good pattern. Pretty big one too. I think you can get them smaller. This one's awfully big. It came with some treble hooks that obviously I'm not going to use for this pull test here in a minute, but I'm probably going to switch them out because they were sharp. They were okay, but I've got much better treble hooks in my arsenal, and I'm going to do a few alterations to it to make it a little bit more efficient and hopefully not get hung up. So I've rigged the little lure here up with a buoy, and I'm going to throw it right in. The water activates the action in it, but if I hold it, kind of let it do its thing, I'll bring it up and show you how strong that propeller is. Takes a second for it to kick on. You can see it really sputtering and taking off, but we'll just drop it right in and watch it do its thing. And it kicks around pretty crazy, but if I rig it up a little bit better, I think it's going to swim really good. The weight of the hooks might help it. It stops for a second and then it'll take off again. It's just going a little crazy here, but I'm going to rig it to where it'll swim true. Right now it's just kind of going crazy. Get it out of the shade here. Maybe we can take a better look at it. You hear that motor going on. Let's throw it over here a little bit. A few seconds and then it just takes off. Yeah, I'm sure if I rig it better, it's not going to be so erratic and flip-floppy like that. This is on a really weird rig. Well, not bad. Should be a nice, fun lure to use. Hopefully it'll catch a big bass. And like I said, I'm going to make sure I balance this thing out to where it really does what it's supposed to do. I think that bobber is kind of restricting it, and obviously, like I said, the hook weight might help. But it works. It'll stop for a second, play dead, and take off again. Here's the wireless sonar that I got. Comes with a sensor. The sensor has a couple of holes in it so you can rig it to a line or a rod if you wanted to. I'm going to mount it to my kayak. I'll show you a little bit of that later. It comes with this control device here. I can't do anything because it's not in the water right now, but pretty decent display. It's kind of basic, wasn't too expensive. I think it's going to work pretty good. And we'll go try it out in the pool and see if it receives the signal. Alright, so I'm back at the pool. So obviously I'm not going to get a good reading off of this. Screen's a little hard to see right now. But the main thing I want to see is now that both of these things are fully charged, hopefully, there it goes. Get some better lighting. It's reading a very flat pool right now. But we've got depth, we've got temperature, sorry about the focus. And that seems to be working okay. Hopefully it'll show me some fish at the lake. And we'll know on Saturday how well this one works. This is my kayak deep search. It's a little joke from the Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. I wanted to take a second to go over all the different points, modifications that I've done, alterations. I'll move on to some tips a little bit later, but for now I'll just point everything out. Velcroed to the kayak is this dry box. And it's on pretty good with some of that really smaller, stronger Velcro and not that old school stuff you see all the time. It's pretty good Velcro down there, so it holds good. My rod holder is attached to that, which this might change pretty soon because I have a few more Scotty receivers and another rod holder that I think I'm going to integrate somewhere else here. As you've seen from earlier, there's where my fish finder device is going to go. Sometimes I put my cell phone there, but I also have this backup situation for my phone. I hardly ever use my little live well down here. It's not 100% waterproof. It's very small, more like a glorified beer holder, but sometimes I throw lures in there. Moving this way, you can see I've added some mooring cleats to each side so that I can use my anchor system. I could use a lot better of an anchor system. This is just kind of what I threw together with what I got and what I could afford at the time. The rope is measured off as best I could. I could probably do it with electric tape, but I just threw this together. It marks off every, I don't know, I think even numbers of footage on it. This anchor works okay. It usually drags a little in the muddy water. I might eventually get something new when I get that better anchor rig. My outriggers, pontoons, whatever you want to call them, I had to readjust them. You can see over here I filled in a lot of holes, and they were just too high up off the water no matter what I did, so I had to go in and drill a hole in the side, mount this all the way through it, and now instead of 4 clamps I only have this single clamp system that's holding everything down. And it doesn't look attractive, but it works well. I tested these recently and they were at just the perfect level here. And if the water gets a little choppy or there's other circumstances that I have to worry about, it can be adjusted. It can even be taken off. I really recommend these pontoons here because they just have a locking mechanism. They come right off for travel. Obviously I can't remove the pole that holds it all, but that makes traveling a little easier. My milk crate system here, it's just with a basic milk crate that I had lying around. You can buy them online, but they can get pretty pricey and pretty fancy. The whole idea of my rig here is not to spend $1,000 on a hobby kayak and spend half the cost on a kayak that was on sale and good deals on accessories, stuff I had lying around, stuff that's inexpensive. You could buy rod holders. That's what these are. These are some plumbing tubes that work really well. And as you can see, I just zip tied them. Those didn't cost as much as the rod holders you can get online that are a lot more fancy and have rigging systems, so you don't have these ugly zip ties everywhere. But I also had to put this on a riser. I built it out of PVC that I had lying around. It's zip tied, it's janky, but it works. It gets it higher up because I'm kind of tall. And in mentioning that, I had to take my foot pedals off because I'm really tall and they were making my knees bend and my legs cramp up. So I took those completely out. My feet strike right there. I am eventually going to get a new seat because this just doesn't cut it. My scupper holes soak me pretty good. Gets a little annoying. And over here you can see I have a reel attached to the outrigger system with that wireless sonar sensor on it, so I could just drop it down, or I could put a lure on here. That's pretty much it. I have the existing bungee system in this kayak tied down to the crate. It's not 100%, but if I happen to roll over, which I shouldn't because of those, if I happen to roll over, that's going to hang on for a little bit. All of my tackle might take off, but I have that bungeed in too through that system. Of course, there's the standard things that come with this kayak. So on the side are your paddle holder, this front bungee system, which I haven't really used much, that one, which is a glorified beer holder. That's basically it for Deep Search here. I'm going to do some modifications on her today, and in the future I hope to, like I said, get a better anchoring system. The Scotty brand that this rod holder is actually sells a really cool one, very similar, same standard mount, an anchor drop system that's pretty close to the rod holders. I mean, the same receiver fits in it, but what it does is, how this rod holder looks, it'll swing out of the kayak and drop it straight down rather than having my anchor rub on the side of my kayak or move around here. Some people develop pulley systems so their anchor can move along with the kayak, but I haven't really ran into that problem yet. And if I get that Scotty's brand anchor system, I think I won't have to do the pulley system on it. I also have these outriggers spread out as far as I could, because I could move them a little bit closer and still get the same effect. Obviously, the further out you get, the more stability you're going to have. But I've got them at just a comfortable level that eventually I could maybe mount a motor on it, small trolling motor, something, leaving it open for more modifications. And if I had to guess, you know, I think I've spent roughly $500 on this setup. I mean, not counting the small things like the tackle and your rods and everything, but not too shabby. So here's a few tips and tricks and recommendations that I have for kayak fishing. Obviously, you're going to want a life jacket, and I attached this little camp whistle on it. You're supposed to carry a whistle. They don't make a big deal about it, but I figure if you're in an emergency situation, the whistle's right here attached to the life jacket. You're good to go. Tie downs. Tie downs are a big deal. If you don't have an outrigger system and you're prone to falling over into the lake like I am, tie downs everywhere. So my cold chain's attached to my milk crate. I have these tie downs for my rods. They're not perfect, but they'll hold on to it and won't shoot my rod to the bottom of the lake. These are all tied down very well. This is strapped down here as best I can with some zip ties. I have to replace them every once in a while, but keeping things tied down is very important. This rod holder dry box combo is got some heavy duty Velcro on the bottom, as I mentioned before. Very important there. Any strap that any device or cell phone holder that you get, it'll come with this lanyard, and the best thing that I could recommend is tying this lanyard off somewhere. I mean, I usually wrap it around this dry box. There's several points on the kayak where I could tie it off if I needed to, but that'll save you from losing things too if you do happen to take a roll. The other tie downs that are standard with this kayak are the the paddle holder. They're on both sides. For my anchor, even if you don't use it in this circumstance, these kind of bendy, whatever they're called, I can't even remember. These bendy things are really awesome for quick tie-offs. Really functional. I got the biggest one that I could for my anchor system here. Any other little tips and tricks that I can think of? I mean, obviously with your dry box, that's where I'm going to keep all my good tools. My weigh, my what do you call it? My weigh device, weighing scale, my scale. My scale. These clippers are really important. It used to have a like a bungee tied to it, but it eventually wore out. The little system in there messed up, but I try to keep them in here and keep them safe. They collapse a little bit. Way better than having some nail trimmers in there or trying to monkey with your plier cutters, which don't work too good on braided line. Now, you know, I've got extra sun protection in here, my cooling towel and measuring tape, which I could just get a sticker or something to put on the side of the kayak, or some more professional type measuring device, but I mean, this works. It's small, it tucks in really well. Any other tips and tricks? I don't like to fall over, so most of my stuff is designed to not let me roll over in the lake or to stay put. That's one of the biggest tips that I could give you. I don't like to fall in. Some people don't mind. It's part of the process. You're gonna get wet, but I hate falling in the water. Hate it, hate it, hate it. So there's a few little tips and tricks on keeping your gear together just in case. Goop. You usually get it for your shoes. This is the marine version. Get a bottle of this. It'll help make really good repairs on your kayak. Plug holes, do whatever you need to do. It's good stuff. So I forgot to mention, when you're doing modifications and you need to get to the internals of the kayak, this inexpensive one doesn't have an option where you can get inside. So what I had to do here, even when I had the outrigg system mounted up here, is I had to like physically cut into the kayak. Now I could just cover this up completely where it's permanent, but I might need to get back in there if I need to install a battery or run wiring or any other work I need to do internally. I'm leaving it in such a way so that I can keep messing with it. I took that tape that you see on the commercials, leak sealed tape or whatever. He's got so many different products, but this tape works pretty good. I mean, in the sun it comes off a little bit. I don't take on a lot of water. It holds in place. I can cut it, remove it if I need to, go back into the kayak and work on it. But definitely invest in that goop, like I said, and this tape. That'll help out for those situations. One day when I get everything solidified, I might permanently seal it, but for now, it's going to stay like that in case I have to do other modifications on it. Another little tip is maneuverability in your kayak. Everything is designed in such a way where I'm not fumbling around with everything. Everything's accessible. It's in its proper place. That's a big tip that I could give any new beginner, or even your advanced kayaker should know. You want everything at hand, accessible. Everything has its own place. That's the biggest tips. Make sure everything's comfortable. If you're going to be in this kayak for a couple of hours fishing, you want everything to be accessible, everything within reach, and not in your way, not running into other things. That's why I might have to replace this rod holder, because it kind of runs into my system here. Obviously my rod hangs out a little bit and starts banging into this. So I'm going to change that soon, but making sure everything is in a position and in a place where it's comfortable, you can quickly access everything you need. If my dry box was too far forward, that'd be an inconvenience, so it's in its proper place for everything. Being able to reach back into my tackle system, being able to reach over to that extra reel there, being able to untie my anchor, mess with the rope, move that around, and even if I had to, quickly move it over to the side here. You know, everything needs to be accessible, comfortable, especially if you're doing some aggressive fishing. With lures, you're going to want to make sure you can get to everything appropriately, you can handle what you need to do, and get your line back into the water. So that's another really big tip. Make sure everything is comfortable, accessible, not in your way, has its proper order. You'll be a lot more comfortable when you're fishing, and you won't be so frustrated out on the water. That rod system I was talking about earlier by Scotty. I've got the two bottom receivers here, which can be mounted to the side or the top. Multi-angle, different positioning, good lockdown. Really good product, really strong plastic, doesn't seem to degrade in the sun. Like I said, they also make that anchor system that I'm thinking about getting, but I'm gonna mount one of those, I'm thinking, maybe both of them, not sure yet, to my kayak, so I have a few little extra options to get stuff out of my way. But it's a really good product, I highly recommend it. Well, that pretty much concludes my video. I hope I inspired you for some ideas for your kayak, or maybe some tips you didn't realize. There's so many videos, tips and tricks and fishing information out there that I was just trying to give my take on what I got and what I do with it, and hopefully it helps you out. Thanks for watching, and I'll try to do a lot more videos, maybe some lure tests in the future, some cool things like that. But thanks for checking out my video, and all the obvious things of YouTube, like and subscribe and share and all that good stuff. But more importantly, have fun fishing, be comfortable, be safe, and y'all take care. Beard Cam.